I'm clearly not seeing everybody. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Jess Blankshane, National Security Affairs Department. I saw, I think, in the senior leader meeting notes about some changes to the faculty handbook in response to executive orders. So I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about those changes and particularly whether any of them will affect the college's support for the faculty's academic freedom. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. Yes, I think the easiest part of that was simply some line outs of the language in the executive order that we were prohibited from including. And I think between Dr. Gibbons and some members of the faculty, chief of staff and others just found some suitable language that sort of keeps the spirit but also complies with the specifics of the executive order. It is a fair question, and I've been in dialogue with the other provosts. We all sort of share the same concerns. I had a call yesterday with the joint provost, so Marine Corps University, Air University, National Defense University, have had one with the Naval Postgraduate School and Naval Academy provost. Last week, we're going to do another one later this week where we're sharing our concerns and sort of gauging where everybody is at. The service academies are in the news a little bit more than the rest of us. And that's obviously pretty troubling to our colleagues in Annapolis right now. I don't think that the handbook changes. I think we've done what we need to do. I think there is a bigger conceptual issue. Deans and I talked a little bit about it this morning that we need to address, which is, where are we going to draw those boundaries around the work that all of you are doing, and what are we going to do about it? It's undetermined space yet. We're going to need to be in dialogue with all of you. A couple of issues have come up already where we're being asked to, remove things off of our webpage that are in violation of some of the executive orders. Our approach has been to comply and sort of save those lectures or articles or whatever they were for later when the policy might change, and if it changes we can repost them. But for now we're in this position of having to be compliant. I know the Admiral has shared some concerns or his views on that with the FAC leadership that came in to talk about it. But there's a little work to do. We're going to need your support and have the dialogue on it to figure out the best way forward.
I completely agree with the provost. And I was telling one of the professors yesterday, I support academic freedom. However, I just also know that we're all Department of Defense employees, right? We're for the United States government. And they may have issues. I will keep us in the lines of the policy, right? So if there's a way I can bounce up against the policies and stuff like that to allow you all to have accesses, or we can work, I will work everywhere I can to be within the lines. I am not going to bounce outside of the lines, okay? Otherwise, it's just not good for us. It's not good for not good for me, because I won't be here long, because it's kind of like, it's a self-inflicted gunshot wound. But I will make every effort to support the policies and keep us give you as much leeway on each of the executive orders or policy that comes up.
I think we have an online question.
Yes, sir. The first is a comment related to that, saying there are already cases of faculty being directed to stop their ongoing research projects. Also a separate question. DocuRouter is being touted as a panacea for our difficulties with routing staff actions through the front office. The DocuRouter is merely a digital tracking version of a manual/ineffective process. When will we have a digital routing system that can simultaneously staff issues, which would be both effective and efficient?
I'm happy to take the second one first, and then I'll defer, obviously, to Provost and the Admiral on the first. I agree. DocuRouter is not a panacea. And if it has been touted as such, I know in COS meetings I've said DocuRouter is awesome, which I believe that it is. And Crystal Darren and Michael Meck and all of IRD deserve your thanks for putting that together. Couple of things. So first off, yes, it is a digital representation of a manual routing tool. However, what it does change is it automatically routes. And so where we knew that we were failing, quite frankly, was say that there was something that had to be seen by the JAG, by CMC, and then me. And what would happen is JAG in the old system would sign it, and then it would sit in a box for 3 days. Then it would be grabbed by a yeoman and manually moved to another box where for CMC, where it would sit until CMC noted it and then took action, and then the same thing would happen on its way to me. What changes now is that as soon as JAG takes an action, there is an automatic alert that populates in CMC's box that says there's a document available for you, please go look at it. He's able to log in, immediately see what the JAG put in there, and then as soon as he takes action, it goes automatically to me. That's just an example. What I would say is that we've now been using it for about 3.5 months. When I first took over as COS, I did my first admin review. There were, and this is anecdotal, admittedly, we're looking to try to create the metrics so we can show this conclusively. But when I took over as COS and I did my first admin review, there were literally dozens of items within the admin tracker that had sort of either fallen by the wayside or were over 2 months in the routing system. And many of them just were not really being tracked anymore. Today, and by the way, that admin review would take hours and we wouldn't get to everything. Now, the admin review takes me about 20 minutes, if that, in a week, in order to look at every single piece of document that's routed at this college. Thus far, we've had over 1,000 things routed, actions, in the past 3.5 months, and an individual action could be something that is 15, 20, 30 items within an individual routing action. So a great example would be, the 05 fit reps. 42 05 fit reps, that's one action inside DocuRouter. And today, if you look at DocuRouter, we have about 6 or 8 things that are over a month old. In all of those cases, they are either deliberately being held by either myself or the provost in order to allow for additional RFIs or questions, or for some things to play out so that we can get the results of an assessment or an inspection in order to fold those back into the individual item being tracked. That's item 1. Item 2 is the aspect of capacity. So it doesn't get after some of the challenges we have. We know, and I can just look at when things go in and when they come out of either JAG's box or OGC's box. We have some challenges, not in terms of the quality. Both our JAG and our OGC are absolutely phenomenal human beings and are working their tails off. But the number of things that they see is large. And so that takes time to do a good legal analysis, takes time to work through all of those individual actions. So we know we need help. We've palmed for additional resources where we know we need actions. And I think this is something else that we've noted, through the IG inspection. We're lacking in capacity in admin, security, legal, and HR. And so we're trying to add resources in those specific 4 areas within mission support in order to create better service for the mission of the college by being able to route things faster, evaluate things faster, and move them faster. Not a panacea, but it is better. And as we've gotten better with the system, the speed of moving things and the accuracy of moving things is far better. In terms of parallel routing, we've talked about that extensively. That is a goal for the future. I don't know why I'm looking at you, Colin. Sorry, you asked the question, so therefore I keep directing it back at you. I know it's not your question, but no, it is a great point. Parallel routing is something that we want to get to. We're not there yet. First thing is, making sure everyone who has to use the DocuRouter is trained and is fluent in the system, and then we can move towards parallel routing. Right now, sequential routing provides us a little bit of benefit in terms of we know that every single person has seen something in sequence. If we go to kind of a parallel routing, that tends to actually add time. I know you think it may not, but it does, because when we've tried it with other things and hanging shared documents, it ends up being a single person or human still trying to chase down, the 1 or 2 people that didn't get a chance to look at it. So, we owe you a great product. I think we're about 80% of the way there. There are still some challenges with it. Some are programmatic, some are use cases, but we are getting better and committed to continual improvement to make this a better, faster process. And something that Joe Pangborn and the team and I have been talking about a lot is how do we, and Rob Duarte Santiago, how do we encapsulate that to be able to show it sort of analytically through metrics. So I've asked for some changes specifically to be put into the program over the next couple months in order so we can track, time of use, where we specifically have the challenges, rather than just kind of looking at it broadly, but have the analytical underpinnings in order to be able to make improvements and get it better. So hopefully that answers the DocuRouter question specifically. Sorry, ma'am. Oh, wait, there was a second part of that question.
The other question had to do with faculty members being told that they couldn't conduct their research, right?
If I could add, there was a follow-on after that.
Okay, so this is a good question, and I'll just ask for some help here about how to think about this. I mean, what we've been told through an executive order is that a certain thing that some of our faculty members have studied doesn't exist. I mean, it's not a thing, and we have to sort of figure out how to comply with that. If the executive order told us that we shouldn't teach mechanical engineering, then we probably wouldn't teach mechanical engineering. We wouldn't see it in our competency. It didn't mean that it's just not something we would do here at the Naval War College. So I'm trying to figure out, I'm being honest with you, about how to characterize the things that we've been told that are no longer a valid sort of concept, or in this particular case, academic field of study. We're going to have a talk about that. What we did hear from one of our visitors from the Pentagon was when we asked, is there room to interpret? No nuance was the phrase that he used. There's no nuance in the enforcement of these executive orders right now. So the general vibe for now is sort of let's comply, right? Let's see what happens, and let's be ready and let's be postured to be able to make our case or state what it is we think we need when the time presents itself. So I honestly, I think for every one of you that's out there thinking this is not really a good thing, there's others out there that are thinking it is a good thing. And so I just ask you to be respectful of that view that's out there on whatever side you're standing on or sitting on, and acknowledge that that exists, and be ready to stay involved in a dialogue about what this means for us here at the Naval War College and for you as individual faculty members.
Yes, good question.
We'll go to,
Sorry.
so let Mark, if that's okay, Linda, and then we'll come to you if that's all right.
Sorry, Olinda Johnson. You kind of answered the question. I'm trying to process and connect some dots, because we just went through the findings, and we showed that the morale was going down when that was done in 2024. The morale now, I would imagine, if you were to take that, is even lower. And in part because of what is just described and the response to that. So Roger all, there are lines, right? And we're going to comply with the lines. I think there's a difference between complying with the lines and understanding what that line actually means. And here's my example. Only because just this morning I've had several people come into my office, research books taken down, and it's terrifying. Frankly, it's terrifying. People feel like they're being erased. They're feeling like they're not valued here whatsoever. And the response from our leadership is, well, we just are following the lines. And I get that. If I think about the bookcase that's out front, the purpose of that bookcase is to highlight our faculty publications. There are all kinds of different ideas in there. Not everyone agrees with those ideas. Somebody wrote about something in World War II that I disagree with. We're not being asked to remove that. If that were a bookcase that was dedicated to DEI, then yes, it seems relevant. But to target a faculty member whose book is represented there that falls within this sphere, I don't think that's within the line, because we're taking a purpose to highlight our faculty. That should be the line. And I'm thinking out loud and also sharing what I'm hearing from colleagues. And I get it. This is a very difficult leadership challenge, no doubt whatsoever. But also know we're looking to you all to give us some reassurance. And that's going to require a little bit more than we're going to fall in line with the compliance observation.
Dr. O, I appreciate your comments. And, I understand your points. I truly do. It's not me, Darrell Walker, a civilian. It's me, Darrell Walker, Rear Admiral, United States Navy, President of the War College. And I can't undo that, right? So if I go and I bounce outside the lines, then I'm gone. It's simple. And that doesn't do any help for the people that are left behind. As I've often talked to, or talked to a couple of my fellow flag officers that kind of try to work through how we are going through all these things in the nation. And so my thing is hey, how can I be supportive of my team? And what can I do from being inside the lines by being outside the lines? Because if I go outside the lines, I'm gone. So your point is well taken, and that's for anyone that's wearing a uniform, right? If you go outside of the lines of what the President of the United States has directed, then you should leave. I'm just going to be frank and honest, because that's what the CNO would tell me. For civilian partners that work here, you know, you are a Department of Defense employee. I value every book that you all have written and the books that are out there in the case there. But also, if a leader, a civilian leader, doesn't fall within the lines, then it's already been proven that you will be leaving. That doesn't mean that I don't value, and I don't think you take it that way, that I don't value you all. But it's just simple rules for the men and women in uniform for me. And that's why I kind of say, you know, whether you're, you know, we're 24/7, 365. You don't take off the uniform and then all of a sudden you can go against the president because you are still in uniform. That's the way I look at it. So I value your question. Great.
So I'd just like to add one. I mean, I know this is might be nuanced and a time of not nuance, but I think there's a difference between sort of an institutional view of valuing all of you, and we do. What the institution is saying in this one instance, and please don't conflate, is it's true. They're not really valuing that piece of work. That doesn't mean that you as a professor, your entire body of work isn't good or valued. We just got told, hey, that thing, take it off your website. And that's sort of what we have to do. I know it's easy. My impression is it's easy to conflate that to, that's a part of me, therefore I'm not valued in my total being. That's just not true. I mean, fair enough. So I would just ask all of us to surround that person and help them feel supported as we're going through this, because there's probably more coming. I mean, every day we're waking up and we're finding something new. Who knows what it's going to be tomorrow? Left-handed people, you're in trouble. Right? So, sorry, Aaron.
That's a joke.
Okay. So, yes, I mean, I think this part of this is, as the Admiral said before, be in communication with one another, understand where people are coming from. I can tell you what's true from our perspective is that every member of the team here is valued, and we got to figure this out, because this, I won't say unprecedented, because I've been reading back to some historical cases in the history of the United States where some other things have happened that probably were on par with this, but I don't think many of us lived through them or remember them. So at least for me, this is new. I'll stick with that. Thanks.
Can I say one thing? You know, I think you're, and this is really, to me, honestly, it's a good conversation to have, you know, because a lot of us are thinking this. But I also see there's opportunity. With every adversity that you have to go through, there's some type of opportunity. And the opportunity is when and if we get a new Secretary of the Navy, that's when I see my opportunity to show the value of the Naval War College to him or her. No presumption of confirmation for the current gentleman that is in the hunt, but that's the value that I can say, hey, here's the reason why, they need to have the intellectual property and own this. This is the reasons why that we're bringing some of these books that some of these superb faculty members are bringing out here or that I've written. This is the reason why we need our future leaders being educated on these books. Now, that doesn't mean we will win, but I can at least open their eyes to say, and that's you all. This is you all selling the Naval War College, the home of Navy thought, to potentially somebody who has zero knowledge of the Navy, United States Navy.
I think Professor Genest was raising his hand.
Thank you. I really appreciate the difficult position that leadership is in right now. So I say this with all due respect. The problem is, I don't know how an academic can do their job if they are not willing to take controversial issues and write about them, or speak about them, or teach about them. And one of the things, because I notice how, Admiral, you said the guidelines, the guideposts. I don't know what they are, and neither do you. But the problem is, as a leader, we have to be told, okay, maybe DEI is out. I'm not going to write about critical race theory or something like that. Fine. But if I have the audacity to say that Canada deserves its sovereignty and write an article about how that undercuts American leadership in the world, now that is in my area of expertise. And it's also a very important strategic question. So tell me now, can I write something like that? Can I have the audacity to say Greenland probably shouldn't be overthrown by the United States? Or do I have to self-censure myself, which is, by the way, the most dangerous aspect of censorship. It's not just telling us, okay, this you can't talk about. It's then me as an academic saying, am I going to lose my job if I talk about Greenland? That's where leadership has to come in. And I'm sorry if it is more difficult for you individually or collectively, but that's your job. Your job is to support us. And if we feel you are not supporting us, then you're actually undercutting the mission of the Naval War College. So I understand your predicament, but this is a time for strong leadership. So I hope you take that in the vein that I mean it, because I understand and I'm very empathetic about your position. But I think you need to be empathetic about our position, particularly as academics. And if you start telling us you can talk about A, C, and E, but nothing else, then you're going to destroy our intellectual legitimacy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll ask the Admiral to follow up here. I mean, from my perspective, Mark, the answer is no on DEI, pretty clear. Yes on Greenland. Go for it, right? And I would characterize it differently. And I see the challenges. We know today you can write A through Y, you just can't write on Z. I'm worried about waking up tomorrow and being told, oh, it's W and Y and X and Z, or whatever sequence they come in. And so that's my concern, is that we're going to keep waking up and we're going to keep seeing something new. And that's the challenge, I think, that we're sort of feeling up here, is it's hard to pin down. But I think on one, we sort of know it's pretty clear. There's no nuance. That's a clear no. Greenland, Panama, let's go, right? I mean, that's why we hired you. That's what we want you to do. Please go for it. Just know that tomorrow, out of our control, we're not sure what's going to happen, and we just need your cooperation and understanding of that. That's my perspective.
I'm 100% aligned with him. I would support you writing an article on Greenland or Panama. There's nothing that says right now that you cannot write an article about this. And honestly, hey, why wouldn't the War College look at that and say, hey, we're going to think through this hard problem. You just made a decision right there. Why wouldn't the War College? Why wouldn't we want to let leadership know about it? And then if leadership comes back to me, let them come to me, okay? I'll take it. It's two choices, right? Here or gone. But, but if there's a policy that, like he stated, if the policy comes out and says thou shalt not, then my recommendation to the faculty would be thou shalt not, because that's what we were told to do. Now, if you do it on your personal time and not associated with the Naval War College as a civilian, living your life, even though you still work here potentially, then that's up to you, right? That's what I would say.
Just one more alibi there, and then Amanda. So the other part of this is, when we got told to take things down, right? There is a certain amount of protectionism on our part of you all. because you might be willing to incur some individual risk for your views, but I think what we're being told through the implementation directives by the Department of Defense and Department of the Navy is, so not only should we be protecting the institution, we should be protecting you. And that's also a scary thought for some of us. And so there is a certain amount of wanting to be compliant in order to preserve space for another day, if I can just put it that way. So again, just a little addendum to the previous discussion. Should we keep going? I think Dr. Rosen has her, was up to, yeah.
Hi, I'm Amanda Rosen. Just hopefully briefly, but the second order effect of this is going to be on people applying for tenure and promotion in the next year or two, and how these now restricted topics, hopefully, well, not hopefully, currently Z, maybe XYZ, how that's going to affect people's prospects for tenure and promotion, and how you're starting to think about that and making space for things that are outside of their control as of right now.
Yeah, great question, and that's a reference to the previous comment. So it's where we need to think through it. We need to figure out what the accommodations are. Not ready to talk about that exactly. The Admiral alluded to sort of your work time, your official time versus non-official, and how we would count all that. It's all fair game for discussion. I would appreciate your advice on how to proceed with that, and stay within the hash marks and be compliant at the same time. Try not to disadvantage the people that we did bring in, because that was their area of expertise. So it's a clear area we're going to have to discuss, in my opinion.
Colonel Russo.
Becky Russo, NSA. Has the leadership team thought through the tension that exists from what you just briefed in the DEOC survey as seeming like perhaps problems with some of the women and minority groups, and how to overcome some of those problems through perhaps more inclusive practices without being able to use inclusive practices? Like, my problem is I'm not really sure I see a path to making that any better if we're not allowed. We say DEI, but they are three distinct different things. And if we can't even talk about the theories and ideas behind them, particularly inclusion, how are we going to make our organization any better?
Thank you, Becky. So when we had at the time, unknowingly super conservative Republican congressman visit the college to ask us about DEI, I was pretty new, didn't understand exactly what was going on. I fell back on part of the literature that I was most familiar with, not DEI, but on innovation, where we know that we get better ideas when we include more different perspectives. And that's the way I characterize a conversation with him, because I was a little too naive to understand what he was really after. So it's a good question. That's one quick reaction. The other bigger reaction is we're documenting in places. We did get asked by the Department of the Navy that if the impact of the executive order on DEI would affect our NETCHI accreditation, for example, which the short answer is Admiral's got a phone call with Larry Shaw from NETCHI tomorrow morning at 8:30, where we believe this is on the agenda, because in one of the NETCHI standards, what are we going to do about that? In our response back to the Navy, we said, basically, we don't think so, but it's going to make things harder, like faculty recruitment, and it's already a complicated and difficult area for us. This is not going to help us in that area. So I think I agree with your assessment. There is not a clear path forward right now. Sort of a request for assistance from all of you, and to figure out what that path looks like for this institution under the current circumstances.
What I would also say is what was in the survey, was also very specifically targeted against some of the practices of individuals. And so that is not DEI, that is common decency, respect, and as the Admiral alluded to, or talked specifically about culture of respect, where those are unlawful, and that is discrimination, that is unlawful EEO practices. That's also what we hope that the focus group on women specifically targets is, where do these practices, or where has that occurred? How can we make it better, and how can we educate those that may unintentionally or intentionally be engaging in practices that are not appropriate and not correct? And it's about, there should be no instances of discrimination, of harassment, of any of that. And what we saw in the survey is that that's the feel, particularly amongst our population of women at the college, that is, if not prevalent, it exists, and we need to make it stop. Yeah, and as Captain Crooks indicated, the EEO program is absolutely in no way, shape, or form impacted by anything. And in fact, the Department of Defense has said EEO is still absolutely a critical program in the law. And WPS as well is not, and I know Dr. Yamin has sent article after article out, DEI does not equal WPS. We are still able and will continue the WPS program and the academic research associated with that. And we have some online also.
Yeah, Dex Wilson, Strategy and Policy. Not about the faculty, but Admiral, both you and Admiral Franchetti are graduates of the Naval War College. That's a rare occurrence for the United States, but not for our friends and partners. So what's the future of international programs? And I got to think, by your own admission, you said you're short. Would going to bat for that be enough to say, I'm next?
I think our international programs is very important. I think they're critical partners. I think we need to continue with our international programs. I am not, and I apologize if I said the word short. I don't think I'm short because you know what? I could be gone at any point. You never know, right? As a flag officer, when you get pinned in as a flag officer, former flag officer right here, retired flag officer, you get in a job, you don't know when you're going home. You could be 6 months, 2 years, or whatever. I would love to be here 2+ years to 3 years. So I am all on board. Rob Winnie and I were talking about our international programs. I've been talking to the international students. I am on board to keep our international students. One of my former classmates, international students, shot me an email. He's like, hey, I know you're going through a lot of things, but you know what? I'm thinking about you. And, I'm glad that I'm a Naval War College graduate. So you got 100% support from me for our international program.
Dex, if I may just add one as an example where we got a few students who we think their IMAT money's going to run out, and we're told they might have to go home. To the Navy's credit, we got the note, said, no, you don't. Keep them in the program until you hear a word otherwise. So that's what we're doing. In the meantime, we're also looking out, for ways to possibly use extramural funding to get them across the finish line and checking on the legality of that and so forth, because it's not that they're not able to stay in the United States at all. It's just that their IMAT funding that was funding them is being cut. So again, we're trying. It's a difficult situation. We're trying to be compliant, be responsive to the orders that are coming out at the same time, trying not to overreact and looking for ways to accomplish our mission.
We're going to do an online question.
Sir, the next question
Online
from
question.
online was, what is the plan for civilian students whose organizations are being dissolved by the president?
I'll start. So we have one USAID student who is here. Honestly, don't know necessarily about the future, what her future is. She's in conversations with her agency right now to discuss. I will say, the Admiral sent a note to the acting deputy administrator of that organization to say the value that student is bringing to the classroom, the value of what she's doing, that we really hope that she's able to continue until the end of the academic year. I think I don't know that we have a good answer right now as to the future of that specific student.
Yeah, absolutely same. And again, it's about us. Hey, can you imagine you getting called and said, hey, you no longer have a place or you got to come back home? So it's about us supporting, our family member. That's what I frankly believe. And we are doing that. We're doing as much as we can to keep her in the class. Mary?
Thank you. Mary Thompson-Jones in NSA. I wanted to bring up something about the climate in the classroom. The abolishment of DEI and wokeness and all of that has led to something I've not seen before in my time as a professor. Students are a little bit ruder. In the last 4 weeks, I've heard more F-bombs. I actually heard a joke yesterday disparaging Down syndrome. And obviously, all of us as professors must deal with this as we see it, and that's the most effective way. But I also think there's an easy button here. A lot of the questions are a lot harder, But my plea to you, Admiral, and you, Provost, would be to send out a message with students in mind, reminding them that courtesy, civility, DEI, the abolishment of it does not mean the abolishment of courtesy and civility and good manners. And I am sure that there are people who have family members who have Down syndrome or know people in their community who do. And these kinds of things should just, I feel like we're just sliding down here. So that's my plea to you. Thank you.
Were you going to start first? And then
First off, I would love to talk to that student. I'm sure Captain Doherty would love to talk to that student as well, so please.
I have talked to the student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Instances of any unprofessional behavior by military personnel or any student are categorically not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, categorically. And Captain Doherty is the dean of students, or myself, or I'm sure I'm sure you're able to handle it inside your own classroom. But any of that uncivility, not okay here. And so I will just say that that is a chief of staff promise that I would absolutely love the opportunity to engage with any unprofessional student behavior. And Captain Doherty, I see, is grimacing and shaking his head at the same way. He's fuming right now. So,
and along with the service reps that are here too. So, we had 06 service reps that I would tell you, and feel free, let me know. They can come see me. There's a couple people that can probably allow someone, to set them right, and I'll happily set them right. So, or otherwise they can depart the campus and they can no longer be a part of the War College. It's simple. It is simple. That's simple to me. Okay, but give these the service senior reps all you got to do, and you don't have to be an email. You call them up and you let them know that student X, Y, or whatever said this and needs to talk. Obviously, you can have a talking to, but it's incumbent upon them. That's why we have them there. So I'd ask you to do that, along with the dean of students. All right. So I think I don't want to go long. I'll stay. I know other people. If you want to, we'll. Does it say 5 minutes? Is that okay, or what? Or if you're tired, I'm not trying to push anybody out. All right. Question right here.
Kristen Mulready-Stone, National Security Affairs Department. I just want to offer some additional perspective to what Mary said. In my first couple of years here, I forget exactly when, a student came into the writing center and was incredibly rude, had a temper tantrum about supposedly the online scheduling system crashing her computer. And the initial correspondence was by email, and I was stunned but amused and showed it to a colleague in leadership who was retired military and got immediately furious and told me I needed to tell the dean of students. And I said, no, I've dealt with difficult students before, fresh from civilian academia. I got this. And then the dean of students at the time came to see me, and I explained what happened without naming names. He, like Captain Doherty, was furious and said, I can't make you tell me, but I'd really like you to tell me because that's not how it works here. And so for my civilian colleagues, there is a pronounced difference here in terms of student conduct than there is with how it is in civilian academia. And so please believe the provost and the admiral and others when they say this level of conduct is utterly unacceptable in this environment, and it's not tattletaling when you report that behavior.
Thank you.
Dr. Gibbons.
No, Mike.
For the people online, Dr. Gibbons, please use.
Word that we've received approval for the FMF funded IMS students currently enrolled to remain in country. Formal notification will be coming out shortly, so this is good news for all of us.
Hey, I just wanted to kind of free think here based on a question that came up from Dean O'Hara earlier in the day and address it specifically, and that's with respect to work schedules and telework and the return to work. Specifically, the flexibilities given to the Admiral as the commander of the organization to allow for alternative work schedules. So for those that don't know, there are different ways to do your schedule. There's obviously the traditional 8 hours a day and the normal work time. A couple of important points. We do have core hours right now at the Naval War College, 09 to 14:30. And so that's when everyone is supposed to be here working within those hours, and then 8 hours plus or minus on that. A couple of things. One of the important points is that we know based on the NAVMAC study we need to do some additional training in terms of time and attendance, how to run the program, how you code things in Slicata, how we make sure that people are on the schedules that they're on. And Ms. Rosenau, our new director of people, along with HR, will be going around very shortly and having those training sessions with each of the individual deaneries and then also within all of the mission support directorates in order to make sure people understand Slicata. Also within Slicata, you are limited right now if you are if you're on just the regular work schedule, you are limited in how you can actually enter in time and attendance. There are alternative work schedules, things like MaxiFlex, which allows you to do work 10 hours in a day, not before 6, be here during the core working hours, and is there any other? And also 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. We're looking at how to allow for chairs, department heads to have the authorities to basically approve those alternative work schedules. There is a form you do have to fill out, and for accountability purposes, we need to use that. You get that from payroll. We'll make sure that gets out to everybody. The Admiral has already said maximum flexibility, supervisory approval. We're going to go with that. Things like the 8-2, which means you work 8 days for 10 hours, you work 9 days for 9 hours, take either 1 day off or 2 days off. The important point is to be here for the 80 hours in a given pay period over a 2-week period. And then the flexibilities that exist within that, we have the ability to make maximum use of that. So training coming, we need to take another look at our time and attendance instruction to take a look at whether those core hours still make sense given the current environment. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of concerns about as the force returns, whether there's enough parking on base, not specific necessarily to Naval War College, but Newark has a huge population, fewer parking spaces than they have people. So how are we going to deal with that as an installation, as well as making sure that people can do the things they need to do when they need to do them. So we're taking a look at that. And just as a reminder, situational telework is still okay based on a couple of ground rules, which is, hey, if I'll give you use cases, having a heater fixed in your house. Yes, that's supervisory approval. Still go home and do that. You have a kid that is sick. They use the reasonable person theory of, hey, the child is sick. I can do the work that I need to do. I need to take them to an appointment. That's a place where situational telework is still absolutely authorized. It requires supervisor approval, as it always has for situational telework, and we want to give supervisors the maximum authority to be reasonable and make those accommodations. I had the first one to me yesterday. Hey, exterminators come into my house. I need to go home. I'm like, yes, go home. Do the things you need to do from there for the 2 or 3 hours that you need to be there to make sure that the exterminator can get in. Okay. I thought that was important just based on some of the questions that have come to me, at least, from the deans. And I'll look at Ms. Sharp and Ms. Rose now. Anything you want to add?
So just to clarify, if somebody's going to take care of a sick child, telework is not a substitute for childcare. So you might need to take some sick leave in conjunction with the situational telework, things like that. But that's something to discuss with your supervisor.
Thank you.
Sir, Eric Sand from SWORD. So my request to leadership on this is that you move expeditiously enough that we can get into the new system before the end of the pay period. And my 2 comments on this are, we literally teach the Navy to do crisis action planning here. And second, Elon Musk has said, DOGE works 120 hours a week. It's no wonder we're kicking the butts of the bureaucracy who only work 40 hours a week. And so my question, again, would be to leadership that we move expeditiously to get these things fixed so that by the end of this pay period, we've done the right training that we need to do, we've issued the forms we need to do, and we can get ourselves onto the new schedule.
Fair. And I would also just encourage everyone, those forms are available. If you are looking to be on an alternative work schedule, have those conversations with payroll, have those conversations with HR, have those conversations with your supervisor. It is, absolutely acknowledged, but it is, it's a two-way street. We got to have people that are advocating for themselves and making sure they do the actions in addition to the things that need to be done at the leadership and at the HR level. Good.
All right, well, we're well over. I really appreciate you all being here and the attentive. Great questions. lots to do. And I'll tell you, hey, change is here, right? So, you know, we gotta brace it, and we gotta move. We gotta be flexible, and be willing to go with the change and the direction that we're, you know, that the course that's set for us. And then we will continue to work here, along with the HR team and all that, to make as much quick change to make sure you have the information that you need to make your decisions and get processes in place here to keep this turning. So I'm out for a little over a week or so. Got some travel I got to knock out. But please send me a note if you have something for me. Reach out to me. Come to the office if you want to sit down and discuss any of this. And then also, I tell you, when we started going through this, I was telling leadership, all the deans and stuff of that, and our senior leadership forum, I'm like, hey, be ready. Tell people. So, you know, we all got to be ready. We are all Department of Defense employees. You know, I ask you, don't forget about that. And we're here for the betterment of the Navy, betterment of the country. And you know what? People is what makes it happen. It's people like you all, people like me, and people like Provost CMC and all that make this happen. You know, our adversaries are not as good as we are. Period. I mean, I fundamentally believe this, serving in the Navy for, total military service of 39 plus years, and we are the best. So don't ever think that you're not the best. You know, we still have work to do, right? Always can be better. Never settle, and always try to make a change, okay? So let's just get after it. I really appreciate you all being here. We all appreciate you all being here. And we means each and every one of you. So I ask you to do this tomorrow or today, is to make a difference and start. So if you were mean to somebody today, you said something bad to somebody, flipped somebody off in the drive home or whatever, honk the horn, wave at them, let them through. Do something good for somebody else. And don't think about yourself, whether it's your family, loved ones, friends, or whoever, somebody you don't know. Do something nice. Thanks a lot. Have a great afternoon.